Hello, all my fans out there. It's the Expendable from the Expendable Show. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday. We have had a weekend, let me tell you. There's so much stuff going on, and it makes me mad because a lot of you are going to go, I didn't know this stuff was going on because our media doesn't want us to know these things. I just talk like Joe Biden right there. Jack, let's go corn pop. Let's go out back to the barn. So there are so many things that happened this weekend, and I'm going to try to get through them as time efficient as possible. First, my cats, and my dad thinks it's funny when I talk about my cats, but so I know all of you that are parents out there have had those moments where it seems like every time the phone rings and you answer the phone, that's when your kids want to ask you 5,000 questions, like right when you're in the middle of a conversation on the phone. And then they're like, mom, dad, mom. So my cats are doing that right now. They've been good all day. Usually they're not, but they've been good all day. But as soon as I push play on my stream, then they want to start acting all psycho and running around and jumping off all kinds of stuff. So bear with me. The cats are crazy. And one big news in my house today. So my mama cat, Masha, she had, as I've been telling you guys, she's been pregnant. Well, she had her 5 babies. So I have I have 8 cats in my house right now. So I think I'm officially Taylor Swift's I'm the male Taylor Swift right now. So I'm the crazy cat guy. When Shauna gets on, she'll probably pop on here in a little bit, but she's been making fun of me ever since that I'm the crazy cat guy. And so, I just been like staying real close to my dog Yeti because we got to kind of, create an alliance for when the cats attack us later and try to kill us, because they're eventually going to plot to kill us, and we're going to have a strong alliance. So that's my my Sun Tzu art of war moment right there. Get an alliance to defend against a much bigger force. So there's your philosophical information for the day. But on today's show, so I want to go through and talk about first amongst the other things, because the other things are more interesting to me because they're international. And I like international things because our news don't report internationally because they don't want us to see like really what's happening out there. But first I'm going to go through Kamala Harris. So as we know, at first she was the border czar. I proved on the show with House Resolution 253 that they did officially call her the border czar. Well, now they're saying, okay, well, she was the border czar, but her job, her job description didn't make her have to go to the border. She was supposed to find the root causes. Okay, so what did she do? What exactly did she do? So she did go to Guatemala. What did she do in Guatemala? Well, for one, she went to Guatemala in 2021. So when I found this information, the White House released the report in May of this past year. So it took 3 years for the White House to get her findings out. That's a problem. That's a problem. I don't like that. Like, why does it take 3 years for them to get a report out? Well, because I think they had to manifest a report. Because I don't think Kamala really went down there and did much of anything. And as we go through what the report states, we'll have a better idea of what they want us to think that they did. But like I always do, I dig into the money. So we're going to find out what that money does. He went down and met with President Bernardo Arevalo, which is the Guatemalan president. She pledged $170 million, which is subject to congressional notification, which I have yet to find any congressional documentation that they have passed this. So as far as I know, nobody's received money, or they did receive money and they're going to deal with it later. I'm not sure. I'm still kind of cloudy on that. So she did a $50 million initiative for the State's Bureau of Internal Affairs, partnering with Guatemala. So the Department of State has partnered up with Guatemala with 50 million to they're creating a Central American Service Corps, which partners with the Peace Corps, and they want to target 25,000 young people for that in the next 5 years down there. So I haven't seen they haven't published anything as to what that's going to look like or what exactly their obligations are going to be for that Central American Service Corps. If they're going to be with the Peace Corps, I would assume it would be similar to like their mission statement and what they're trying to do, but who knows? She also created a technical assistance for regulatory reform. Not sure what that is. I haven't seen any documentation on what that actually entails. I feel like some of these things they just threw on there to make it look like she was doing things, but I've yet to see like the structure of those things. She created a task force to protect the ports and airports from organized crime, which there's probably not a lot of organized crime left in Guatemala because all those Central American countries have sent all their criminals to the United States. So they're probably pretty safe already. Kamala's kind of years behind dealing with this. I feel like she still has yet to deal with it. She doesn't have a clue as to what to do with the border. So she also it says she improved the trade and customs between the United States and Guatemala, which means that we'll be able to do more business with Guatemala, probably with the lumber industry, I would assume. I know that we kind of use our own lumber. We have plenty of it. But for other, types of, lumber that is indigenous to Guatemala, that is probably more exotic that rich people want to use. So she created an investment facilitation team that visited. So she says United States investment facilitation team composed of relevant U.S. government agencies, which she did not name, will visit Guatemala in the next 6 months to support clean energy and infrastructure development, facilitate private sector operations, and promote sustainable economic development. So that whole statement is a giant red flag for several different reasons. For one, sustainable economic development. For two, private sector. For three, support clean energy and infrastructure development. It's the same trash that they sold us here for all you Biden voters that was a complete disaster. It's a giant money funneling scheme that she's trying to promote down in Central America. So we all know where that's going to head, to disaster. It didn't work here. It's not going to work there, definitely. She wants to implement climate smart agriculture, whatever that means. She wants to conserve the biodiversity of Guatemala, which there's nothing wrong with that. That is a rainforest area. There's a lot of ancient history there. I think to take care of those things down there is important. So I'm not going to go against that. She says she created a women's rights program. Not opposed to that. Indigenous and civil society engagement. It just depends on how they define that. So she doesn't define it in her findings, so I don't really know how to respond to that. $1.5 million to support multi-stakeholder engagements among the government of Guatemala, private sector actors, civil society, and people from marginal communities, including indigenous leaders, to ensure public policies are inclusive and to promote greater accountability to public interest. So it's the same woke ideologies that the Biden administration and the Obama administration tried to implement here that ended up weakening our system. Same thing. So she is revamping the JEDI program, which is a Guatemala Entrepreneurial Development Initiative. Talk a lot about that, and this program is kind of big. A lot of the private sector has started to attach themselves to this program. which we will go through and talk about some of that. It's supposed to create $30 million in new investments and jobs, which is weird because she'll invest into another country's economic development, but ignores the economic disaster that her administration has caused here. So I'm kind of confused, as to who she's the vice president of other countries except the United States. Is that a title that she can have? Because that's what she's done. So she's partnered up Axion, which is owned by Michael Bloomberg's life partner, Diana Taylor. It's a community development nonprofit. So with Michael Bloomberg wrapped all around, you can imagine how woke that's going to be. I don't want to say successful because Bloomberg is successful. Then there's Agro America. It's a giant corporation that produces chicken, pork, turkey, salmon, and processed products. They are big on the sustainable development goals. Their CEO is Fernando Bolanos Valle, and he is a big member of the World Economic Forum. So you already know by them being attached to the sustainable development goals, him being part of the World Economic Forum, that this is going to be a huge, it could potentially be what we have here, where they're basically doctoring up our food to give us conditions. We don't really eat good food here. It doesn't matter if they say it's organic or not. It's full of crap. So that's a big problem that we have here that I speak on a lot. Then there's the Agridius Foundation, which is based in Switzerland, has all these World Economic Forum ties. So they're there to create jobs. Also sustainable development goals. Care International, which is it's a program for women and girls, and it's supposed to create jobs for women. But the chair of that foundation is Ariel de Rothschild. So you can only imagine how honest that's going to be. The Secretary General of that program is Sophia Sprechman, and she is a member of the Socialist Party of Uruguay. So there's strike two for that program. And interesting statistics, the CARE International has been around for a while. But in 2022 and 2023, between those 2 years, they had 136 sexual abuse and exploitation allegations. Good job, Kamala. That's what you do down there. You bring the devil to Guatemala. Kamala, Guatemala. Guatemala, Kamala. She brought the devil to Guatemala. That is sad. That is sad. That's why we can't vote for her for president, because these are the stupid ass decisions she's going to make. So then there's the Deakin Impact Group. It's an investment fund manager. They build economies. They're Canadian, and they are big on the sustainable development goals. So another World Economic Forum sham company. Just they're there to seize control over Central America. That there's no other ifs, ands, buts about it. It's the same thing they're doing to Africa, where they're going down there and saying, hey, if you give us control over all your assets, we'll develop your country. It's the same thing they're doing down there. It's the exact same thing. It's modern day colonization. It's a trick. And everybody down in Central America is falling for it. Diversario is another one that's a DEI program. As we know, DEI is so successful in America. It's just a way to lower the bar. Then there's the DT Institute. It focuses on orphaned, abandoned, and disadvantaged children. They were sued for funneling money to another parent organization. So there we go. Another scam company. That this is the people that Kamala Harris rounds up to head her programs. And she wants to call Donald Trump all the time, but she has access to the shadiest, most vindictive country or organizations and nonprofits and private sector groups. This is who Kamala Harris is. And we see it on TV all the time. Everybody, who's Kamala Harris? We're seeing who Kamala Harris is. We're seeing who she does business with. The people that she entrusts are evil. They're bad people, bad companies that need disbanded. And then obviously the World Economic Forum themselves has stock in that area. There's another company called Yazaki So I'm guessing they're Japanese. I didn't look into them too much, but what they do is they make wire harnesses for GM and Ford. So your GM and Ford harnesses are going to be made in Guatemala, which is going to create 14,000 jobs for the Guatemalans. But what it does is, Kamala says she wants to bring manufacturing back, but she just sent 14,000 manufacturing jobs out of the United States. That's a big number. So that's another. Who is Kamala Harris? She's full of bad deals. 14,000 jobs out of the United States workers' hands to Guatemala. There you go. And yet still nothing in this plan fixes the border. Nothing. So then down in Guatemala, just to go in, and this doesn't directly have anything to do with Kamala Harris, but in April 26th of this year, there's a nonprofit down there called Save the Children in Guatemala. It was raided by the Guatemalan government. That is significant because there's a tie to some of the border nonprofits through there. And in 2017, they had a very, very interesting person that was the chair of this organization, that was the chair for quite a while. First Lady Jill Biden was the chair of this company. What they're doing is they're taking these children that have no ties to anybody, and they're putting them in the trafficking trade. And they got busted, and the Guatemalan government finally put their foot down and said, "Hey, enough's enough." What I think happened is, which this happened, and then they did the raid, and then the report came out from Kamala Harris. So I think that it was a negotiation that happened that Guatemala said, "Hey, we're going to take this down if you don't give us our $170 million." And Kamala Harris says, "Oh, well, I never got it presented to Congress." And so here we are. The Guatemalan prosecutors have accused the United States of corruption and undermining Guatemala's democracy by trying to cover this up. It's a child trafficking investigation. The investigation is still ongoing. It was so bad that investigators had to reach out to the Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, for help. This is a big thing because this Save the Children nonprofit goes right through Texas to some of those nonprofits that are housing these migrants temporarily. I guess kids are disappearing all the time there, and they have their own allegations going on there. Save the Children also endorsed Kamala Harris. So there you go. There's our Kamala Harris for the day. You want to know who Kamala Harris is? We're finding out who Kamala Harris is. So here we are. So let's get into some of the international things. Well, first, let's go to the Trump rally. Trump was here in Atlanta on Saturday. I drove by there. There were so many people there, and there was probably every bit of 40 to 50,000 people standing outside before everybody filed in. I ended up going that morning to the Gwinnett County Republican meeting, their monthly meeting, and former Congressman Doug Collins was the keynote speaker. The speaker that led up to him was one of the night radio personalities for Atlanta's WKSB, which is 95.5 for those of you who do not know anything about Atlanta. But they're one of the biggest radio stations in Atlanta. It's political talk, conservative political talk. Sean Hannity was on what used to be on that channel at one time. Their big headliner now is Eric Erickson, which he's all right. Doug Collins made a lot of really good points. And that is right, Colin. We need to keep American money in America. It's ridiculous, the amount of money. It's almost like we're an international organization that raises money, just gives it away to everybody. But we're going to get into what we have funded here in a little bit. But Doug Collins made a lot of good points. He said, look, we got, or Shelly Winters, who is the radio personality I was talking to you about, he made a really good point. And he's an African-American gentleman, very well-spoken, very, very intelligent. The guy, he knows his stuff. And so I was glued to him. He was speaking my language all the way. And he said, look, we got to stop. When we talk about conservatism, we got to stop talking about the race part of it. We got to stop attacking Kamala Harris as far as her race goes. Stop going after the race stuff, because that's not working. It's not causing doubt in the liberal mind. It's making them resist us more. And so I totally understand what he's saying there. And he said we need to stick to the core principles of what America is wanting, where we're hurting at: the economy, the border, and crime. Just continually hammer those home, because that's what's hurting us. They're the top 3 issues in every poll that Americans are worried about. So I'm going to stick to those kinds of things. Because then I went to church this morning and it was kind of the same message, like, fight the good fight, but remember, at the end of the day, God wins. So it kind of gave me a little bit of, a little validation to say, whatever happens, we win anyway. The book of Revelations already said God wins. So the devil can try to manipulate and twist and turn all that he wants, but at the end of the day, God wins. Anyway, it was a really good meeting. Doug Collins is such a good speaker, and you can tell that he was a chaplain in the military. He just says all the right things. I was very, very impressed with him. And he took the time to talk to me after he was done speaking, which I really liked. Just a general good guy. A lot of the times when I go to these things, the speakers will come, they'll do their 15 minutes of speaking, and then they'll go, well, I got another event I got to go to, and then they'll rush out of there. Doug Collins did not do that. He was there early. He mingled, spoke, and then stayed, and then mingled some more, and then he left and went to the Trump rally. And then he was just on Fox News this morning. So it was really nice to really see who he is in person. And he's a genuinely good person. So I had a good time doing that. And then I drove past the Trump rally, and there was a massive amount of people there. So that was exciting to see the support. So now let's go into some international stuff. Iran. So a lot of people don't know this, but the Congress is working on House Resolution 106. So House Resolution 106 is, my dad said he's going to fix my cat problem. Oh, and Shauna has entered the building. So we'll say hi to Shauna real quick. There's nobody there. Hello? Is anybody here? Oh, there she is. No, hey, nobody drinks coffee at 7:30 at night on a Sunday. I don't know why you're working. The Starbucks that greedy. They should be shut down. It's the Sabbath. Well, the new Sabbath. The real Sabbath's on Saturday, but it's the Sabbath. Four-wheelers driving down my street. Anyway, so let's get into Iran. So we have Joint Resolution 106. What that does is it basically says that if anybody attacks Israel, specifically Iran, that the United States will have resolution passed to assist Israel in defending Israel. So that, for us to go to that length to make it official, it's like kind of an official act of war. It's not exactly, but it kind of is. It's like basically saying, hey, we will come to the plate if you go in there. And that may be what's keeping Iran from reacting. And Israel just continually keeps bombing Lebanon. So, and Iran still has yet to respond. So maybe it's because we sent the Abraham Lincoln over there along with a giant fighter squadron and cruisers and destroyers over to that area. I think they're like, yeah, well, okay, America's about to do something. They're about to fight back. So we should probably maybe chill. They can do it like what they did with Trump after Trump assassinated Soleimani, and they called up Trump and said, hey, we got to make it look good for our people. So do you have like an empty building or something somewhere where we can bomb it real quick just to say we did that, we struck back? And Trump was like, yeah, that building right there is empty. You can go bomb that. And they did. And then Iran went back to their little hole. So I don't think, I mean, Iran talks a big game because they have to, because they've pumped up themselves so much. But I don't think they're really about that life. I think they know that when push comes to shove, that there will be according to Kansas, there'll be dust in the wind. So I think it's a bad idea for Iran. I think that they're Ayatollah cowardness. That's what they should name him, Ayatollah the coward. But they should he's probably, kind of done the war games thing and said, this isn't going to work out for us. We don't have the capabilities that the United States has, and they've sent a pretty impressive display our way. So but they have canceled all the airlines, and so there are other things strategically happening in that region as well. Like Iraq is to jump into this situation, so they are sending things to Lebanon to assist the Hezbollah. And then you still have the Houthis in Yemen. So the Houthis in Yemen are very pesky, and they basically control that whole that whole body of water in that area. And so it makes it hard for ships to really get in there. But I think with our capabilities, we're okay from the Mediterranean. We can do a lot from the Mediterranean. I'm not that worried about that. It was mainly they were attacking like all the tankers coming in with supplies of stuff. So they really weren't. I mean, they were doing damage, but they really weren't doing anything. So we have to understand that we could be pulled into this conflict if Iran does fight back. I do know that Russia is also paying attention to this situation because of they don't really get along with Israel all that much. And I think this is coordinated. I think if Iran enters a full out war with Israel and we get involved in that, I think you're going to see Russia turn the heat up on some things. And I think you're going to see China really turn the heat up on some things. And then you also have North Korea that could jump in just because they want to fight. They're itching to fight somebody. So I don't think they really care who they fight. They just want to fight somebody. Kim Jong-un, their country's all flooded right now. So I was watching him on a rubber boat, like trolling around the city in North Korea, pointing at stuff like this. With the stupid haircut. But this could turn into a giant international situation, just so everybody understands that. My question on this whole scenario is, where's Biden? Where's our president at? There's all these things getting ready to happen. We haven't seen Joe Biden other than meeting the hostages that came back from Russia, and he didn't even really talk to the media during that time. He just kind of hopped back up on the airplane, and he didn't come back out. So we have a leadership problem right now, and I think America needs to say something about that. I think more people need to be saying, "Where's Joe Biden? Where is Joe Biden at?" Because she's too busy trying to be the first Indian president to really pay attention to what's going on in the world. Like, she's abandoned her vice president job to run around and campaign. And yeah, if this was a normal world situation, I wouldn't be saying too much about it. Like, yeah, whatever, go ahead, campaign all you want. We got a president that's holding it down, but we don't. Joe Biden is MIA. Kamala Harris is MIA. Who's driving the ship? Nobody. I mean, Lloyd Austin basically made his own decision and said, yeah, I'm going to send a bunch of people over to Israel to help out just in case. We haven't heard from Joe in a while. Kamala, she's not even answering her phone. She's too busy hanging out with rappers. So we have a leadership problem right now, and we're vulnerable. And I shouldn't be laughing and joking about it, because I do believe it's a serious situation. And we need to be on our toes about some stuff. We're seeing Russian subs popping up again. Then China and Russia did their little bomber flyby for the first time in a long time that they've done something together in a show of force. So I think I'm hoping this is all saber rattling, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how far these countries are willing to go, and because no one's really pushed it to that limit. We've always, Americans, we've always been the reactors to things. So until somebody attacks us, we're just gonna sit and wait, I think, because we are a reactive country. So I want to make a quick note. While I was watching the Trump, I did watch his rally on TikTok, and so I try not to do this, but I did it anyway, just because I wanted to see what people say. So I looked in the comments, and there's hundreds of thousands of comments, but so I was trying to keep up. But one thing I noticed is that, for one, the liberals have a million bots out there, just putting negativity out there, or like flooding it with blue waves or blue hearts or all this stupid stuff. I don't know what they think they're going to get out of it. No MAGA person is ever going to flip over to the dark side. We don't even like Star Wars, so we're not going to go to the dark side. But one thing I did notice was there was a lot of if you take the bots out and looked at the real liberal people talking on there, every single one of them was wishing death upon Donald Trump. And that's the hatred that when Joe Biden's like, we need to do the, turn down the rhetoric. But those were just empty words. Those didn't mean anything, because Joe Biden didn't tone down nothing. These kids that they've groomed out there to think this way are all ready for violence. They've groomed them to be violent against opposition. So they've created these radical activists, and that's all I saw was people putting a lot of guns on there. Oh, I wish they wouldn't have missed. Will somebody shoot him finally? This is boring. Somebody shoot him. That's all I saw on there from the liberals. Shoot Donald Trump. That's all they talk about. Why can't somebody kill Donald Trump? So-and-so wouldn't have missed. So-and-so wouldn't have missed. This is what liberalism is breeding. And they want to point the finger that we're a threat to democracy. You guys are creating radical assassins. We're not running around trying to kill anybody. We just want to make it through the election with our leader. And so, in my opinion right now, the liberal world is there's no moderate. There's no moderate liberal anymore. That doesn't exist. If you are a moderate liberal, you're suppressed. You're suppressed by your own party. And it's apparent, because they attacked John Fetterman. He tried to go to the moderate side of things, and now they attack him. And Kennedy, they attacked him, so he left the party. Kristen Sinema, they attacked her. She left the party. Joe Manchin, they attacked him. So this is what happens when you're a moderate. They run you out of the party. And what's left is the radicals. Bernie Sanders' crew, Barack Obama's crew, the radicals. Yes, Barack Obama's radical, Shauna. From Kenya.
No comment. No comment.
He's Kenyan. He runs like a gazelle.
That was a very racist comment.
Nah, gazelles don't have a race.
For you to say that he runs like a gazelle, that's very racist.
Have you ever watched him play basketball? He's actually really good at basketball.
Yes, I've seen the man play basketball. Yeah, he's good at basketball.
And he runs like a gazelle. I watched him run.
Moving on.
Okay, so let's get into another big situation that's out there. And our media does not cover it at all. Because if we see this and we see what's happening, it could have a domino effect here, and they know that. So I understand why they're not telling us about this. But England is about to turn into a war zone. The government has failed their people. They have opened their borders and allowed all these migrants from all over the Middle East, all over Northern Africa, all these Muslim countries. The English people don't want it. And the government never asked them if they wanted this or if they could do this. So one of the videos that I saw was this migrant group somewhere in the Middle East. I think it was Jordan. They just took this lady's house and told her to get out. It's our house now. And so the people of this neighborhood got together and they stormed the house and threw them out. And because the police are not helping nobody there. They're staying out of the way. What started this whole thing was in the town of Southport in the United Kingdom, which is north of Liverpool, for those of you who know anything about England. Three young girls were stabbed by migrants and killed. And the people in Southport had enough. And so they went after them. And it started a riot. And so now there's a war going on between the migrants and the people of England. And now it's popping off in almost every city. London's rioting. Every city in England is rioting to get these migrants out. So now when you see the video footage that I've been watching, when you see these groups, they've united England. It's insane. You're seeing the English flag. You're seeing the Welsh flag. You're seeing the Scottish flag. You're seeing the Irish flag. All of the United Kingdom has come together to dispute the government on their immigration policy. So we have our media is not going to show us that, because they know that if we're seeing England fight back and they're successful, that they're afraid we'll fight back. And our government they will not just relinquish control. We know that. We know this will be a problem. And it's they're when you do find these articles online, the media labels them far right protest, far right protest, far right protest, far right. Every single one of them, even Al Jazeera, says it's far right protest. So they've already set the stage. The stage is set. They're just a lot of these countries are just waiting on us to act. Now, do I think that that's a good idea? I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't make it to that. I don't want our streets to be full of riots and violence. It's not a good look for us. And we have, our population is way too big to not have a giant disaster. We will have death here in that situation, a lot of it. And you look at countries like Bangladesh, they're rioting against their government right now, and they had 90 people killed just today. Just today. So that's a problem. And Shauna said her laptop died, so she should have charged it. Guess somebody's got to parent her. Charge your laptop. So we have these international issues that are happening, and there's uprisings. You look at Venezuela, same thing. The election was stolen. Maduro stole the election, and the people are not happy. And so when Venezuela switched over to socialist, all these socialist Americans were like, wow, what a great thing. Well, you just drastically watch this country disintegrate and get more restrictive to the point where the people can't take it no more. And then you have an uprising. Socialism doesn't work. It never has, and it never will. It doesn't matter what new ideas you bring to the table. Socialism will not work. It's too restrictive. We as human beings are not meant to be put in boxes. And I know if you back a dog into a corner and you start poking it with the stick, it's going to bite you. And that's what these idiots don't realize. These Marxists and these Stalinists and these Leninists, they don't understand that this system will not work. Even restrictive oligarchies do not work. Restrictive monarchies do not work. You can't restrict people and expect for you to sustain that for a long period of time. People aren't made for it. Our personalities and the way that we think, we are not made for restriction. We'll put up with a little bit. We'll put up with borders, but we will not put up with complete restriction. That's too much. So we really have to start paying attention to world things. Generally, what happens in Europe, things happen in Europe first, and then they happen here. If you look at like the history of how things happen in America, whatever they do, then we do. So I think the world is trying to shield us from this stuff in England. You actually have to look it up to find it. But it's out there, and I know the British and the Irish on TikTok are video recording everything, so you can see it. If you get on TikTok, just start flinging through your story, your For You page, and you will find many videos of this stuff happening over there. Ireland's been fighting about the immigrants for quite some time now. It's just a matter of time before we do. Kamala Harris is not going to close that border. I don't care what you liberals say or what she tells you liberals. She is not going to close that border. And she's like, well, Trump didn't even close it. Well, yeah, because there's still border to be built. Like you can't shut our border down without building the rest of the damn wall that you left sitting on the ground all over the border. She could have picked up a screwdriver herself, start putting border walls together. No, her administration did nothing. The Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration, which they're both responsible for, caused our disaster. So if something happens in the future where the immigrants cause a lot of problems, which they already are, our population is just so big that something happens, we just chalk it up to something else shitty happened. The things that are happening here that we're letting slide by, they're rioting over in England. So that's the difference. They're able to kind of water down the crime here because we see crime all day, every day. But I think it would take a big act of some sort to cause us to do that. But it's one stupid mistake away from somebody. Somebody wants to make one real dumb decision, and it could cause an entire international affair. And that's how close the world is. The temperature is really high. Do I think that it's going to happen? I would hope not. I would hope that our leadership would step up and say, hey, we've gone too far, and now we have to stop. And at church this morning, my pastor, Carl, he said, every now and then the devil overplays his hand. And I think that's what's happened. The devil overplayed his hand. And that's the message that he was trying to get across to us today, was that the devil's overplayed his hand. And I believe that has happened. So you can either double down on your failure and fail worse, or you can kind of back up and head back into the clubhouse and say, back to the drawing board. So hopefully that's what happens. And we can get this country back under control. I think it's going to take Trump to get in there. A lot of liberals are like, well, he's going to end the country. We're going to have a totalitarian regime. No, you're not. I don't know why they don't just listen to the man talk. He never talks. He comes out every single time and says, I don't care if you vote for me or don't vote for me. I'm going to do things that's going to maintain your freedom. That's the message. Do you think us conservatives, if Donald Trump goes into office and he starts a dictatorship, do you think us conservatives are going to let him sit there and do that after he fed us lies? No, because Donald Trump is not lying. He's saying, I'm going to help you maintain your freedom. You're going to be able to be accepted in Donald Trump's world. You're going to be able, it's not going to matter if you're gay, lesbian, trans, all these things that we identify as Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Icelandic, whatever it is. You can be that in Donald Trump's America. And you're accepted. And you're not going to be harassed. Yeah, there's bad apples. There's bad apples on all fronts. And we'll deal with those bad apples when they come. But overall, Donald Trump is preaching unity. He's preaching everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome on my side. If you're an American and you're on American soil, I'll take care of you. and I'll make sure you get to keep your freedom. And that's anti-socialist. They don't want that. They don't want the people to have power. And Donald Trump's handing the power back to us, saying, here, you guys, I've watched you guys be disappointed in your politicians for 50 years. I'm giving it back. Here's your power. What do you want? What do you want? And I'll make a presidency out of it. And he did. And he'll do it again. And now the stakes are higher. And Donald Trump, one thing that you can say about Donald Trump is he rises to the occasion. And the man works well under pressure. And so when he does win this election, I hope all these brainwashed liberals can have enough buckets laying around to catch all their tears, because it's going to be bittersweet that you were weak-minded enough to allow a failed Democratic Party infiltrate your mind, infiltrate your vote, pander you with celebrities because their own platform isn't strong enough to stand on. It's weak. It's weak. You want to learn how to be a strong-minded human being? Come over to the conservative side. It's better. We have boat parties. We have good people. You see videos all the time on YouTube where liberals will walk through the Trump rallies and they get treated well. We're not out there attacking each other. We don't do that. That's a liberal Antifa thing. We don't do that. Unless you step on our yard. If you're unwelcome and you're on our yard, bad things could happen to you. But overall, the conservatives are peaceful people. We just want to live life. We want to live and get old and retire. And go beach somewhere. Well, that's what I want to do. I want to go down to the Florida Panhandle and sit on a beach the rest of my life. And that's right, Colin, we have the Hulkster on our side. Who doesn't like the Hulkster? If you don't like the Hulkster, I can't be your friend. You know what? Ric Flair supports Trump too. Who doesn't like Ric Flair? And so we have our work cut out for us this week. I think Iran is going to do something. Last time they shot off 300 rockets and drones. Something's going to happen this week that could potentially change the direction of our country. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope Iran's just full of shit. But man, it makes you think about it a little bit. All I know is I'm just prepared. Just be prepared. Everybody go buy a bunch of cases of water. Just start buying water every time you go to the store. Buy a case of water. Buy some canned goods just in case. You never know. I'm not going to sell you on a doomsday prophecy, but just in case. Just be prepared. Get you some MREs. Colin's got them. He's got them on deck. Lots of MREs. And just be prepared, people. It's a dark time, but don't worry. In the end, God wins every time. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. I didn't have Sean on here today to help me stretch out my content with her expert analysis on everything and her coffee. Starbucks still sucks at coffee. For $8 cup of coffee. Who wants to pay $8 for coffee? That's ridiculous. And it's liberal coffee. Makes it even worse. 419 coffee up there in Ohio. Jeff Manget. That's the coffee you need to drink. He didn't even ask me to say that. I'm just saying it because that's my dude. So everybody be safe out there. Know where your children are at. Just in case some crazy people try to stab your kids, just like in England, then we'll have to have a riot. But everybody, take care of your families. Check in on each other. Make sure everybody's safe. And I will see you guys on Wednesday unless somebody bombs somebody between now and then. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Colin, for tuning in and participating in the chat. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.